In our headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, October 2nd, here in South Korea. Iran launches a massive missile assault against Israel on Tuesday in retaliation for the recent assassinations of key Hezbollah and Hamas militants. Meanwhile, South Korea's consumer price index slows to 1.6% in September on year, marking its lowest gain in well over 3 years. And the 29th Busan International Film Festival kicks off today with over 200 screen productions from more than 60 nations. We start in the Middle East this afternoon. A barrage of ballistic missiles by Iran targeted Israel on Tuesday in retaliation for the recent assassinations of key Hezbollah and Hamas militants. Our Park Gonu starts us off.
Air raid sirens blare across Israel while citizens hide in bomb shelters. This comes as Iran launched around 180 ballistic missiles at Israel on Tuesday local time, 5 months after its previous attack using missiles and drones. Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps said the attack was conducted in retaliation for the killing of senior officials from Hezbollah and Hamas, and a top Iranian general in recent Israeli attacks. Those leaders include Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah and deputy Hamas chief Saleh al-Aroi. While the IRGC said 90% of its missiles successfully hit Israeli military and security targets, Israel Defense Forces said they intercepted many of them with U.S. help, and only a few injuries were reported. People were told that they could leave air raid shelters about an hour after air raid sirens began. Following Iran's attack, Israel vowed retaliation.
Iran made a big mistake tonight, and you will pay for it. We'll keep to the rule we have determined. Whoever attacks us, we attack them.
Israel launched a ground invasion of southern Lebanon earlier on Tuesday with what it called limited, localized, and targeted ground raids. That was reportedly done to move Lebanese-based Hezbollah forces far away from the border area, as they have been a threat to people living in northern Israel. Israel and Hezbollah have been exchanging fire almost every day since the Israel-Hamas war started on October 7th last year. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
In related news, U.S. President Joe Biden has slammed Iran's assault against Israel, with his counterparts in Europe sharing his condemnation, while calling for a swift ceasefire in regional fighting. Our Ising-jae has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden strongly condemned Iran's missile attacks on Israel, warning that Tehran would face severe consequences for its actions. He also stressed that Iran's attacks were ineffective and vowed full support for Israel.
At my direction, the United States military actively supported the defense of Israel, and we're still assessing the impact. But based on what we know now, the attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective.
The U.S. leader also said that discussions are going on over Israel's response to the attacks, adding that he would soon be speaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the issue. The European Union was also quick to condemn the attacks while calling for an immediate ceasefire in the region. Taking to his social media on Tuesday, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said the dangerous cycle of attack and retaliation risks are spiraling out of control. Former President Donald Trump, on the other hand, took the opportunity to slam the Biden administration, claiming that the world is on fire and that the U.S. leadership is absent. Referring to himself in the third person, he said that under President Trump, there was no war in the Middle East. And with Israeli troops advancing into Lebanon and Iran launching its massive missile attack on Israel, global oil prices soared on Tuesday. The price of Brent crude futures for December on the ICE Futures Exchange rose nearly 4% on the day to trade at nearly $74.50 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate futures for December also rose nearly 4% to close at over $70 a barrel. Wall Street fell on the news of escalating tensions in the Middle East, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.41% from the previous trading session, while the S&P 500 closed at nearly 1% lower. Both the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 indexes enjoyed new all-time highs on Monday, but retreated due to the increasing tensions in the Middle East and concerns over a surge in oil prices. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Here on the local front, President Yoon has reaffirmed the demise of the North Korean regime should it seek to deploy its nuclear weapons. The remarks were shared on Tuesday in commemoration of South Korea's Armed Forces Day. Our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
The North Korean regime will come to an end the very day it attempts to use nuclear weapons. President Yoon issued this warning Tuesday as he observed Armed Forces Day in an airbase south of Seoul and launched a new strategic command to curb North Korea's nuclear threat and weapons of mass destruction.
더욱 단단해진 한미 동맹을 토대로 끊임없이 노력한 결과 마침내 우리 군의 첨단 재래식 능력과 미국의 확장 억제 능력을 통합하는 전략사령부를 창설하게 됐습니다.
The new unit will exercise integrated control over South Korea's key military assets, including the Hyunmoo series of ballistic missiles, stealth fighter jets, and 3,000-ton submarines. Building strength, the president said, is the only way to safeguard peace, not relying on the goodwill of the enemy. He further noted how North Korea has recently carried out low-level provocations, such as sending waste-carrying balloons over the border, conducting GPS jamming attacks, and engaging in illegal arms exchanges with Russia. He urged the North to abandon its delusion that nukes would ensure the regime's survival.
우리 군은 강력한 전투 역량과 확고한 대비 태세를 바탕으로 북한의 도발을 즉각 응징할 것입니다. 만약 북한이 핵무기 사용을 기도한다면 우리 군과 한미 동맹의 결연하고 압도적인 대응에 직면하게 될 것입니다. 그날이 바로 북한 정권 종말의 날이 될 것입니다.
Yoon further said Washington is putting into action its extended deterrence policy of coming to the aid of its allies under nuclear or conventional attack, noting that a US strategic nuclear submarine visited South Korea for the first time in 4 decades, and a B-52 strategic bomber landed on the Korean peninsula for the first time. Based on Seoul and Washington's alliance, Yoon also vowed to strengthen trilateral security cooperation with Japan. As Armed Forces Day marks the day in 1950 when South Korea, as part of the United Nations Command, advanced into North Korea during the Korean War. Yoon thanked soldiers, veterans, US Forces Korea, and the UN Command for their service to this day. The president expressed his trust in the strong posture of the armed forces, calling on Korean citizens to support those defending the country to preserve peace through strength. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And in celebration of the country's Armed Forces Day, a parade to demonstrate South Korea's defense capability was held earlier on Tuesday. Our Pyeonji covers the event.
Thousands of people gathered in downtown Seoul on Tuesday as this year's Armed Forces Day military parade took place, involving over 3,000 troops. The country's aerobatic flight team, the Black Eagles, flew over the Gwanghwamun Square to celebrate the annual event. Earlier in the day, a separate ceremony was also held in Seoul, showcasing the country's latest weapon systems. Among them was the Hyunmoo 5 ballistic missile, unveiled to the public for the first time. Capable of carrying one of the world's largest warheads, weighing up to 8 tons, it's powerful enough to hit an enemy's underground bunker at a depth of 100 meters or more. The missile is a key asset of the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation Plan, part of the country's 3-axis defense system that involves striking the North in retaliation for the regime's nuclear attack. The military started to develop the Hyunmoo 5 in 2016, right after North Korea's 4th nuclear test, aimed at targeting the regime's command center in case of a nuclear attack from the north.
The size, all of that is impressive, but what I was impressed with was the way that the tele-erector launcher was able to move sideways. If you notice very closely, the wheels enable it to move sideways, which is not easy. So it was a good showcase of capabilities.
The release of Hyunmoo 5 is likely to send a strong warning to North Korea, which has been engaging in a series of provocations, including the recent test of a new tactical ballistic missile that was equipped with a 4.5-ton warhead. Also on Tuesday, the US B-1B bomber was seen flying over Seoul Airport. making it the first time that the American strategic bomber has taken part in the Armed Forces Day ceremony. The bomber, dubbed the Swan of Death, can carry up to 57 tons of munitions and can fly at Mach 1.25, meaning that it could reach Pyongyang from Guam in just 2 hours. North Korea strongly criticized the bomber's participation, threatening that it will take retaliatory measures. 배은지, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has vetoed the 3 bills that were passed unilaterally by opposition lawmakers last month. 2 of them urge for special probes, one into the death of a Marine and the other into alleged stock manipulation by First Lady Kim Gon-hee. The third bill calls for one-time cash handouts for all Koreans. The presidential veto on this Wednesday follows a related cabinet recommendation back on Monday. Now, this is the third time that President Yoon has vetoed the special probe bill into the Marine's death, and the second time he has vetoed the probe bill against the First Lady. A plenary session of the Parliament will take place as early as Friday in response to the latest presidential rejection. And if 200 out of the 300 lawmakers support the bills, they will override the presidential veto. In other news, consumer prices here noted a substantial slowdown in September, gaining 1.6% on year, the lowest in well over 3 years. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin covers this latest finding.
Inflation in South Korea slowed to the lowest level in more than 3.5 years during September. Data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday showed that the country's consumer price index, a key gauge of inflation, rose 1.6% compared to the same month the previous year. This is the smallest rise seen since the 1.4% recorded in February 2021, and is also the first time since March 2021 that the index has been below 2%. And this year, the increase in consumer prices first fell below the 3% level in April, and while there was still an uptick in July, it fell to 2% in August. The slowing of inflation last month was mainly driven by prices of petroleum products dropping 7.6% on year, falling for the first time since February. But with global crude oil prices surging more than 2% on Tuesday local time in the aftermath of Iran firing ballistic missiles at Israel in response to Israel targeting Iran's allies, petroleum product prices may once again become unstable.
Based on the current inflation trends, agricultural products, particularly vegetables, are affected by weather conditions. Petroleum products, which are heavily influenced by international oil prices, may also fluctuate.
Prices of agricultural, livestock, and fisheries products were up 2.3% in September compared to the year before, with vegetables in particular seeing a sharp rise, jumping 11.5% on year and 18.6% on month. The on-month increase for vegetables was the largest seen since August 2020. Amid the prolonged heat wave, prices of Napa cabbages were up more than 50% and radishes around 40%. Both are key ingredients of kimchi, one of the most important staples of Korean cuisine. The core CPI, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, dropped 2% on year and 0.2% on month in September. With inflation cooling to the 1% range in September, it is further setting the stage for an interest rate cut in the next policy meeting scheduled for October 11th. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, tangible efforts to encourage domestic demand have been unveiled. Speaking at an economic ministerial meeting on this Wednesday, Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok said the government will open up its reserves of cabbage and extend tariff quotas for certain products, including a number of imported fruits. With regard to the decline in demand for electric vehicles, he spoke of additional support measures such as the early implementation of the battery certification system and the expansion of corporate liability insurance. Also, families with many children wishing to buy EVs will be offered greater subsidies. On the entertainment front, curtains are poised to go up for the annual International Film Gala in the southern port city of Busan later this evening. Our Choi Soo-young has a preview.
The port city of Busan is now crowded with movie stars. The Busan International Film Festival, the biggest film festival in Asia, starts on Wednesday, October 2nd. A total of 224 films from 63 countries will be officially screened. Its opening ceremony, starting at 6 p.m. Korean time, will include awards like the Asian Filmmaker of the Year, given to a person or group who has made a big contribution to the Asian film industry, and the Korean Cinema Award, given to someone who has promoted Korean movies to the world. This year, there will also be the Camellia Award, created in collaboration with fashion brand Chanel to recognize women's cultural and artistic contributions to the film industry. For the first time, this year features a streaming platform release as its opening night film. The Netflix film Uprising, directed by Kim Sang-man and produced by legendary filmmaker Park Chan-wook, will make its world premiere at the film festival. Also, drawing attention is the premiere of a documentary film on BTS leader RM, titled RM Right People, Wrong Place. On Tuesday, an evening festival wishing for the success of BIF was held at the outdoor stage in Busan's BIF Square. From October 3rd to 6th, a cultural festival called Community BIF, where visitors can participate, will also take place around the square. The Busan International Film Festival will run for 10 days, ending on October 11th. Chilliest, Arirang News.
And back here in Seoul, Deoksugung Palace this month is hosting an art show that centers on Mickey Mouse and his friends against the backdrop of Korean heritage. Our Yoon was there.
Disney's magic meets Korea's history. In collaboration with Disney Korea, the Korea Heritage Service is showcasing the work of 9 artists who have creatively blended Korea's royal heritage with cartoon characters from Mickey Mouse. The art exhibition is taking place at Deoksugung Palace in Dondokjeon Hall, which opened to the public last year, having been rebuilt in its original form. The universally recognizable character with his iconic red shorts and yellow shoes is Mickey Mouse, but this time he's wearing something different. Mickey and Minnie Mouse are wearing Korean wedding attire celebrating their marriage, while Donald Duck and Daisy Duck are dressed in traditional hanbok clothing. Disney characters appear in 십장생도, a painting from the Joseon dynasty that features 10 symbols representing longevity. The paintings are often given as gifts to wish for long life and chase away bad luck.
I thought Mickey 장생도 was the perfect way to celebrate the occasions of Mickey Mouse's upcoming 100th birthday and Disney's 100th anniversary, and also the restoration of Dondokjeon after 100 years. I think seeing the beloved character Mickey Mouse in traditional Korean hanbok brings a refreshing and delightful twist that many will enjoy.
Other works by different artists display the characters represented in artifacts, highlighted by different patterns, such as a lotus. Disney Korea said it was excited to work with Korean artists to bring the Disney magic to life in an unconventional way and entertain and inspire people around the world.
I was so glad to see this kind of exhibition that combines Mickey and the Korean pop art culture. Yeah.
Especially, I really enjoyed the statue in the middle, the ceramic one. The lotus and Mickey was really get along together, and it was really beautiful.
The cartoon characters that hold a special place in many childhoods can also be found at photo spots around the rest of the palace.
The exhibition runs until October 20th, so don't miss the chance to explore South Korea's history in a fun way at Dondokjeon Hall while enjoying the beauty of Deoksugung Palace in fall. Yoon, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. We begin today in Thailand, where the school bus crashed on a highway near Bangkok and caught fire, killing 23 people, of which 20 were children. According to the local authorities, bodies of 20 children and 3 teachers have been recovered after the fire was extinguished on the single-decker bus, which had been carrying 44 passengers. Newly appointed Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra said on a social media post that as a mother, I would like to express my deepest condolences to the families, adding that the students from Wat Khao Praya Primary School were returning from a field trip to the Uthai Thani province, some 250 kilometers north of the Thai capital. Local media showed videos where the school bus was engulfed in flames as it burned under an overpass. Witnesses say it crashed into a concrete barricade on the highway after suffering a front tire burst before catching fire. The Thai transport minister said that the bus was powered by extremely risky compressed natural gas. Now, Thailand suffers from around 20,000 fatalities a year from road accidents, having one of the worst road safety records in the world. Moving over to Mexico, where Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in on Tuesday as the country's first ever female president. She vowed to ensure security for investors and said that now is a time of transformation, now is a time of women. Sheinbaum, a 62-year-old climate scientist and former mayor of Mexico City, took the oath of office in the country's Congress as her supporters chanted Presidenta, using the feminine form of president in Spanish language for the first time in Mexico's history. She took over from outgoing President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, a close ally within Mexico's ruling Morena party, which holds a supermajority in the lower house with its coalition, as well as a majority in the Senate. The incoming president used her inauguration speech to comfort investors, saying that assets will be protected so that Mexico remains a secure destination for international investment, while reiterating that a reasonable debt-to-GDP ratio would be maintained and that the central bank will be autonomous. In regards to the violence in the country, she is seen as likely to continue with Obrador's hugs not bullets strategy of addressing root causes and avoiding direct confrontation with the cartels. Sheinbaum, who shared a Nobel Peace Prize with former US Vice President Al Gore in 2007 for her climate work, is set to serve a 6-year term until 2030. The UK closed its last coal-fired power plant late on Monday, marking the elimination of coal from the UK energy system for the first time in 142 years. The Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station, owned by Uniper and located outside of Nottingham in England's Midlands, has operated since 1967. Uniper's chief executive, Michael Lewis, said on Tuesday that the move was a remarkable achievement, adding that the government must provide the right incentives and policies to encourage renewable energy sources. Britain is now the first G7 country to end coal-based power generation. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. What a drastic change in the weather in just 2 days. Many northern inland regions had the chilliest morning of this season. many took the day off yesterday, so the morning chill felt a lot colder than Monday's morning commute. Highs should also be far lower, going into the low 20s this afternoon. So Seoul and Daejeon should get up to 21 degrees Celsius. Jeju makes it to 22 degrees this afternoon. Central regions will be sunnier than southern provinces, so this means there will be stronger UV rays for central parts of Korea today. Don't forget your sun gear when heading outside. Meanwhile, for tomorrow, Typhoon Krathon will have a minor impact on Korea. Jeju and Gyeongsang-do provinces are forecast to see up to 60 millimeters of rainfall. The rest of the country will also have a wet National Foundation Day tomorrow. Then temperatures will return to season norms as we get close to the weekend, but there will be frequent rain on Jeju and southern provinces for the next 5 days. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.